Comics, where horror lies.
Street Warrior back here with another review, and I'm going to be reviewing a title that I've been talking about in my other videos for a while now, so I figured I might as well just do a video on it because I'm sick, probably sick of me talking about it, and that is In Search of Darkness. Let me just say that as a 80s horror buff, this documentary, I swear, was everything that I needed. Just awesome, awesome documentary. I am an 80s horror buff, as most of you know. I cannot express my love enough for that decade of horror. I feel like it was just the best and just timeless decade in horror. I don't feel like 90s horror even came close to replicating the success of 80s horror. Basically what you have here is In Search of Darkness, and it basically is, well, an 8-hour documentary, but it's divided in two parts. This is part one, and this is part two. Part two recently came out, I think, the beginning of last year, and it was a crowdfunded project, and it was supposed to come out December, but due to COVID-19 and all of that, a lot of us didn't get it until January. And they had like different editions. There were the Elvira edition, there was the regular edition, there was the Fright Rags edition, which I just had to snag because I love Fright Rags. That's the one with the shirt here. Just love their shirts. Shout out to them and shout out to Ben because Fright Rags is awesome. And yeah, it just is an awesome, awesome documentary covering a bunch of 80s horror flicks. They cover the heavy hitters like Friday the 13th, Prom Night, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Return of the Living Dead, Reanimator, and so on. Just, they cover a whole bunch of 80s titles. In Search of Darkness 2 sort of does the same thing, but I will say In Search of Darkness 2 gets more into depth with the 80s horror. They go over a lot more lesser known titles, it seemed like. I finally learned what a Giallo film was because I had no idea. Tenebrae was the first Giallo film I watched due to this documentary. Awesome film, by the way. Or not the, don't want to say awesome film, but it was a good film in a whole. Good slasher movie. And yeah, I can definitely say with In Search of Darkness Part 2, I actually learned about a lot of titles that I've never watched. Alligator, really was a good one. Witchborn, that was a really good one. The part one, I learned about some titles too that I kind of had never watched up until I had seen that and they talked about it. But I actually will say In Search of Darkness Part 2, I actually learned about a lot more titles that were 80s titles that I had never really seen before that I must say were absolutely good watches. Witchboard, like I said, that in my last video that I did, that was probably one of my favorite ones that to learn about from this documentary. Just awesome, awesome movie. And yeah, just both of these documentaries kicked fucking ass. I honestly loved both of them. Like I said, love 80s horror. I feel like if you are an 80s horror fan, this was a heartfelt, warm love letter, basically, to all 80s horror fans. Very well done. You have your celebrities in the documentary that they interview: Tom Savini, Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, Linnea Quigley, and just so on. Just so many were a part of this documentary to like talk about the movies that they starred in, and it just overall just an awesome, awesome documentary. I absolutely loved it. You really, I doubt if you can find it. You might be able to on eBay, but this is a high price. It probably is like fucking crazy. I want to say maybe like 100. I don't know exactly because this was a Kickstarter project, so you really can't find these anymore, at least for a decent price. I mean, even the Kickstarter project was a little bit pricey, but I totally feel like it was worth it just because of all the stuff that came with it. It came with, like, the edition that I got, it came with the shirt and the poster. But I know even the other editions, like Elvira and the Chris Jericho edition, they came with a whole bunch of stuff. So I feel like that's kind of what you were paying for mainly. But totally worth it. Awesome documentary. I really didn't have any complaints about it. It's super long. Like I said, it's 8 hours, so you might have to like take it easy when watching this because it is a long documentary. But again, I really, really enjoyed it. I felt like it was very well done. I am a huge fan of horror documentaries. I love Tearing the Aisles. I've loved Going to Pieces, Rise and Fall of the Slasher film. So I definitely had to get this one, even though this one is mostly 80s horror, but I'm still kind of a sucker for 80s or horror documentaries. So I don't watch them like that, but when I am in the mood to watch them, those are kind of my go-to ones. So other than that, though, just awesome, awesome documentary. You can watch the first part of this, though, on Shudder for anyone that has it, because I know the first part of it is on Shudder. I know the guys said that they're not going to release part 2 on Shudder, but for me, I feel like they personally are going to eventually put it on there, because they said they weren't going to put part 1 on Shudder, and they did anyway. So I do feel like at some point part 2 is probably going to be on there as well. I don't know exactly when, but I feel like it will. But again, just very well done documentary. I absolutely loved it, and I definitely recommend to go check it out. It was really refreshing to watch these because there were some movies that I really either didn't have no interest to watch or I had no idea about them until I watched these documentaries, and then I went and watched them and absolutely loved them. So I definitely recommend it. That was pretty much the fun thing about these documentaries, because some of the 80s horror titles I wasn't familiar with until watching this. And after watching them, I was like, whoa, those were good. So I definitely recommend these. Just a lot of fun. And if you, like I said, if you are an 80s horror buff, especially like I am, these are the documentaries for you because they were just well done and I just thought they were awesome. That's all I really want to say about these. I hope everyone enjoys this review. Definitely, again, you can go check out part 1 for anyone that has Shudder because it is free on there, so you can get a little taste of what these are, at least what part 1 is like, because it's all there for free. And yeah, that's all I really want to say. Until next time, I'm on Instagram also as Elm Street Warrior, and thank you for watching this review.